Welcome once again to another Chess.com podcast hosted by me, Michael Quigley. Now this is taking a break from our mating traps that we've been looking at and our different types of mate, and instead we're going to look at another one of these tricky puzzles, these mates in two. Now in this puzzle we look at the power of how queens and knights can work together to form brilliant mating traps. So it's white to move and mate in two. And if we analyse this position from its start, it's white to move, we can see that the knights and the queen are already doing a very good job of restricting the black king's option, who's stuck in the middle. Even though he's in the middle, there's a lot of squares taken away from him. And if we block off those squares around the black king, we can see there's only really the e6 square he can escape to. So if we could find a way of attacking both the king, checking the king on d5, and attacking or protecting the e6 square, we'd have a mate. So if the black knight on a8 wasn't there, then simply knight to c7 would be checkmate. But of course, the black knight is there, so in this instance, the knight will take on c7, and there's now no move in mate in two. So we could now possibly look at a queen move, moving something like the queen to f5. But when we move the queen, we're getting rid of this original box that we had that was trapping the black king in. And now the black king's got an escape route going down to the 4th rank. And he can come to c4 or, well, only c4 here. But after the king does go to c4, there's no mate in two. And a similar idea, if we try and move the queen to d6 happens, again the c4 square is free for an escape. So now looking at this, we know that the solution doesn't really rely on a knight or a queen move. So what other options could we do to restrict black's movement or his escape squares? Well, surprisingly, the white king has an important role to play here. By moving the white king to g7, we have restricted black's options. I mean, black's got four legal moves he can make here. The first one would be to move the pawn, which is simply c4. But then we can do this queen move because the escape square c4 has been taken away from the black king. So we can do our queen lift onto the 5th rank, attacking the d5 square and protecting the e6 square, and we have our mate. So black can't move his pawn because we know that the c4 square is very important to any escape when the queen moves. Similarly, you can't really move the knight to c7 because we've already discussed that if the knight wasn't there, then simply knight takes c7 is checkmate. In fact, if the knight came to b6, again he won't be able to take on c7, so knight to c7 forces the checkmate. So black's only got one other option, which is to move to that flight square, the king to the e6 square. And now, can we see the mate? Yep, it's queen to e4. Again, attacking the original square that the king was on, the d5, and his flight square, e6. By the king moving in, he stops any further squares appearing that were there originally. If we expand our box larger, we can see that not only was the e6 square available, but also the e7 square. So when our king moved in, the black king moving to e6 eradicates this problem because the king can no longer escape to either f7 or e6. It's a very interesting, tricky puzzle, but it shows the power that the knight and queen have when working in tandem. They can trap the king not only at the edge of the board, but also in the centre. I hope you've enjoyed this Chess.com podcast.